Joe Orth and I are starting a podcast. What should we call it?
Hey, don't pick on me. You know why? Because this is why. Let's see what he says.
The Joe Show?
Give Joe the business?
That's right.
Cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe.
What is happening here?
Would you listen?
We'll give you a chance.
Thank you.
That's Joe.
That's Rooster.
And this is the Together We Shall podcast, episode 32. What's happening, man?
Not much, man. Another day. Another day of hanging out, living life to the fullest, working hard, playing hard.
Okay. I like that. Work hard, play hard. Same thing here, man. We just resupplied the Angels Finish Line store with all sorts of stuff from our partners at ASICS. Finally got us some good stuff that we can offer to everyone, to a ladies sleeveless hoodie. I mean, it's all there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the new merch being put on the Finish Line store. You know, racing season for most of us around the country is getting ready to kick off as we're officially in spring now. I know we got some friends like the Evans family that are dumped on snow, but there's a lot of us that are ready to start wearing some new, cool, you know, running, endurance, mobility, movement gear.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are your source. So hop on over to the newly decorated and revised Angels Finish Line store. Anyway, April brings the second race series event in Wichita. I went last year, Flyover State, Kansas.
I genuinely forget about those states, and that's why they're called flyover states. Like, I've never lived not within, 20 minutes of an ocean. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I genuinely have to look at a map. I can say the state capital of all the states, but some of those center ones, I don't know where they are sometimes.
I don't know if I can still tell you all the state capitals either, but I do know that we have a fun guest today who's been to a lot of states and has done a lot of running, and a lot of running recently as well. So if without further ado, man, are you ready? I think we should bring Lance in here.
Let's do it.
What's going on? How you doing,
Well,
Rick?
I'm good, bro. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it.
We like to ask a couple questions of our guests, and here's your opportunity. Don't overthink it. Just go with it. Where are you currently physically located, and why do you think you're a guest on the Together We Shall podcast?
I am currently physically located in my home, in my office in Detroit, Michigan. And why I feel like I'm a guest, because I think I'm a pretty cool person. I have the opportunity to be an ambassador with you, an ASICS ambassador, and we had some great conversations. And I think you thought I was a pretty cool person to bring on the podcast.
I think you nailed it, man. Episode 32. I mean, there's only been 31 before you in the past year. So, yeah, pretty cool person indeed. And we have had some great conversations. The reason that you're on the show, frankly, if I was going to be as blunt as I could, is because Together We Shall is an ethos, is a motto that we use with Ainsley's Angels. And what I've witnessed you do in your life journey has been all about together and service and community. And so it makes so much sense for you to share on this platform some of that journey. So that's the why. Now, what happens between and in between and all over, that's just gonna be the fun stuff. So
I think only pretty cool people can do that.
Tangents and thoroughfares. We shall get through this episode.
that is something that's in our description, Lance. Tangents and thoroughfares. So at different points along the way, we're going to find ourselves going down rabbit holes or completely getting off the main road, and we call that kind of like a tangent. And then we get back on the main road, and that's the thoroughfare. So anyway, just a little play with words. But one of the things that we do up front sometimes when we feel like we need to is Miller time. So Miller time is that part of the show whenever we invite you to grab your favorite beverage. It can be whatever. In fact, we have seen many things in our 31 episodes. What are you going to go with today, Joe?
For the first time, I have two beverages. The first is coffee out of my Louisiana Marathon mug because registration for that just opened. So hope to see a lot of you and perhaps Lance in Baton Rouge in January of 24. I know it seems like a long way away, but it comes close. So that's this. But also, I've realized I don't drink enough water. So I bought me one of those big silly jugs, and I'm drinking more water, which
Dude,
also causes a lot of bathroom breaks. So
uh,
just be aware
that
over this next hour.
that just brings me so much happiness, man, for you to acknowledge that you don't drink enough water and then for you to take action on it. In fact, I am with you. I'm going with 2 water bottles during this episode, as well as my standard, not a sponsor yet, Celsius metabolism drink. So that's what I'm doing. Lance, I didn't tell you about Miller time before the episode, so
And
I'm just going to assume you have something within arm's reach.
I don't. I left it in
Uh,
the kitchen. I made a mistake and left it in the kitchen, but I do got a bottle of water, and I wish I had it.
So go get it. Go get it,
I'm
man.
definitely about to get it. It's literally right here. Give me one
Yeah.
second.
Hey, dude, Lance is fast, bro. Like, is super
I
fast. And
yeah, I can see that. With
yeah,
well, we'll
No.
let him talk about it. I see a 5xx
Hey,
minute mile for a recent event.
yeah. Lance, while you were away, I was telling Joe how fast you are. And so that let's jump right in, man. You are a runner and you recently had a PR, I think, somewhere. Tell us a story.
yeah. I am a runner. I'm currently training for the Boston Marathon, and I jumped back into this training block in December, and I recently had a PR of 118. I forgot the seconds in Vegas. Um,
The half, of course.
right in the half marathon, and then I just recently came back from LA. This wasn't a PR, but with all of the hills and the weaving around people, it could have been a PR. But I ran a 121 there, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I've been changing up my training plan and doing a lot of weightlifting to get stronger for the hills in Boston. So I'm feeling prepared and confident.
Yeah, no doubt. And what kind of pace are we talking about for those that don't do math in public? If you're talking about 118s and 120s.
Like 555 per mile and 559 in the for the 121.
So sub 6 minute miles for 13 miles.
Yeah,
I love the humbleness of that, and then especially like how you said LA wasn't a PR, but if I'm not mistaken, you did get on the podium.
yeah, I did. I took third
That,
place overall. Um,
that's pretty good.
yeah, it was crazy. This is the first time I've had a major event like that and take podium. I was so surprised, And I always say like I happened to come in third because I mean there's many people that's much faster than me. It just happened to be at that time at that race in those conditions that I happen to be the person that come across the finish line third. So I never want to take the position like I'm the fastest guy because I'm not. I know there's many people that can dust that time. You know what I mean? So that's why I always take that position.
Lou Holtz, famous college football coach, one of his speeches that he did at a university in West Virginia, not West Virginia University, but said your like goal in life is to do the very best you can with the time you have allotted to do said task. So like, yeah, that day you beat some of those people, and that's awesome. Like you said, though, kudos to them because they might get you next time, and
Absolutely.
that's like the humbleness of like, hey, today was my day. I had a good day,
Yep.
and go from there.
Yeah, I love that, dude. That's like, again, we mentioned the word 4 times already, humble, and that's just something that you resonate. And I'm gonna take a note out of your book and absolutely use that whenever I get third place at the LA half marathon and I'm on the
Right.
podium.
Well, always.
Use the pace car though.
So I always live by this motto is like be humble or be humbled, and life can humble you in an instant. Like I could win third place one day, and then something tragic can happen the next. You just never know with this thing called life, man. It's so many unknowns that lie ahead.
Yeah, and your journey has been an interesting journey in the sense that I thought you were a runner in college.
Yeah, by a long shot, I wasn't. I didn't start running until I was 27. I'm 34 now. So, but I've always been athletic. I played basketball in high school. I played football. I played intramural sports. I mean, I did a lot of different sports where you had to run, but distance running was never a thing for me. Actually, I hated it. When I was on the basketball team, the coaches made us run a lot, and that was just something I did not like doing. So it wasn't until later in life where I started running, and then I noticed the benefits outside of the physical benefit of running that kind of kept me in the space. So mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of those things where it's like, wow, like this is a space that I can, do one thing, but simultaneously strengthen other areas of my life. And that's why I kept running.
Yeah, and we've seen that play out in your everyday now. I mean, so you came back from college. I always mess it up. Tennessee University. What is it?
Yep. Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee.
You came back to Detroit, correct? After college, and now did you spend all your days prior to college in Detroit?
Yes. So I was in Detroit, born and raised in Detroit on the west side of Detroit, and educated through the Detroit public school system. Once I graduated from high school, I left. I needed to get out of my environment. I didn't feel like my environment was conducive to my growth. So I applied for a lot of scholarships while I was in school. My parents didn't have the money to send me away, so I figured I'm gonna figure out a way to get out of here. I got $29,000 in scholarship money, and I went away to Tennessee. Tennessee State was my first choice because my guidance counselor kind of pushed me into going to a HBCU. He thought it'd be great for me. And once I got there, I didn't take any type of like school tour or anything. I just kind of went out on a limb. And when I arrived, it was the best thing for me. So once I graduated in 2012, it took me 5.5 years to graduate. Um, I moved back in 2014 after working in the supply chain management industry for a few years.
So you said a couple things that I just want to pull the string on a little bit. You growing up in Detroit, you made it a point to mention the public school system. Can you shape that up for us to our listeners who don't understand exactly why you said Detroit and public school system?
It was just difficult, for the average kid to like flourish and grow in an environment um, like Detroit. And what I mean by that is like, how do I want to paint this picture? You see a lot of violence, you see a lot of negativity, you see a lot of like drugs, you see a lot of fighting, and some of your friends like you know being killed or going to jail, and just it's just different things. I mean, and that's all like rooted in like systemic issues that plague our communities, right? Because it don't necessarily have to be that way, but unfortunately that's how it is. So you grow up in this environment and you just know what you know because this is all you know. Like my commute from my house to my home, it's like there's no like healthy food options. There's liquor stores on every corner. You know, these are the places I stop in to get my food. On my walk to school, I'm going to school to get a bag of chips, some juice, and um, some cookies. Stuff like that. I'm not eating real food. You grow up in that environment, and it plays a role in how we show up in our schools. So you got neighborhood conflicts that show up in the school, and that's why it's a lot of like violence and negativity that exists. Once I graduated and I was able to get out of that, I found it on my heart to return home and to be able to pour into young people. So once I was in the supply chain management industry, I'm thinking to myself, there was people that saw something in me at a young age and provided scholarship money for me to go away to school, develop myself as a young man. So I felt it was necessary for me to take all of this knowledge and experience that I have and come back home and pour it into young people. So I completely switched my career path and jumped into education in a nonprofit space where I can go into the schools and work with young men and women to be able to focus on social and emotional learning, to be able to kind of develop them as whole people, right? Because our young people, they need to see more positive figures in their life, and if we have more of that growing up, I think that'll change the trajectory of a young person's life. So I felt it was necessary to, come alongside and do what I can with the resources and knowledge that I have to help out young people.
Like you said, for a young person to see positivity in, we'll just say an adult, right? But for them, in your situation, for them to be able to see it from you were them 20 whatever ish years ago, right? Like, look, I grew up here too. I walked
Yep.
these same streets.
Yep.
I know how good or bad it could be. But I left and I, recharged, got educated, and now I'm back to show you that there's potentially more than, this
What you-
area, and you can go back and do all these things too. By somebody that like I'll say a politician type figure comes into the school and talks to them, and they're like, well, yeah, but you're from Ann Arbor.
Correct.
They're not going to have that connection. So that's very cool to go back. That I think that's rare. Celebrities will, write a check at some point, to an extent to help where they came from. But like going back and living there and immersing yourself back into that environment that's admirable.
It's tough, man. It's tough because you see all of the things that the kids are going through, and it seems like it's gotten worse over time, right? So I look back at the resources that we had, and then I look at the challenges that I had growing up, but then I look at the challenges that they have in their current conditions, with social media and just how they're being educated is similar to how we were educated 20 years ago. And it's the same thing as technology is advancing and the educational standpoint is stagnant, right? So how the kids are learning, it just doesn't connect. It's like it's a huge disconnect. They don't have the resources. They don't have computers. They don't have books. They're reading books that I read when I was in high school. It's like all of this information they're missing. And then on top of that, you have kids that's reading at like a third grade level and they're in high school. So it's kind of like if this is the start line, they're starting 3 miles behind or 10 miles behind. It's not even an equal playing field. So, but these are some of the most intelligent kids I've ever met in my life. It's just certain things that they just don't have the certain resources. And it's like, if they did, how far would they be? So that's where people like myself and people in the community come in and try to do what we can to push them further along. And some of them go out and do great things, but many of them don't, unfortunately, because they just don't have the resources and they just don't have people that pour into them. And that's a generational thing.
So for me, when I think of Detroit, and that's the microcosm that we're looking at for this conversation. But let's be clear, there's Detroits all over the world.
Absolutely.
But in this case, we're talking about Detroit because that's your hometown and that's where you're having an impact. When I think of Detroit, like two things come to my mind. This is a guy who's only been to the airport in a layover. I think of the 8 Mile and Eminem and all the things and in music and all that stuff. And then I also think of Ford and the American car industry.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of those two things, there are some overlap and some similarities. But would you say that the what you have just described to us about negativity and opportunities to make different decisions rests in the way that the car industry's just left the city, or is this just my uneducated perspective? So I think that Detroit is the way that it is today because big car companies pulled out all of a sudden and left the place to just deal with it all on its own. Like that's what I think. How right or wrong am I?
Partially right, but there's a lot of other issues that happened in our city. So the crack epidemic messed up the city really bad. The automotive industry, that happened when the crash of the automotive industry happened in 2007 ish. But in 2006, that's when the school system start going through its issues and start closing schools. People start flooding away from Detroit. We had a big financial crisis with our former mayor, that, racketeering and all of that stuff that happened in the city that caused economic downturn. So yeah, it's a lot of things that happen in the city to put it in this condition. But Detroit, I don't want to paint Detroit like it's a bad city. That's why we, like, when outsiders say something negative about Detroit, it's like, nah, because it's not that. You could come to Detroit and like have a phenomenal time. I mean, we got so many amazing things happening here. But I do want to say, like, at one point, Detroit had a population of like 2 million people. Right now, the population is climbing up to 1 million. Right. So when you think about all of those people that once were here and they're not, that leaves the city abandoned in a sense. So the neighborhoods in Detroit, whether you're from the east side or west side, there's a lot of abandonness. There's not a lot of people paying tax dollars to be able to have street lights on everywhere. So you see darkness in different areas. You have different pockets that's worse than others. And then you have pockets that look beautiful in Detroit. I mean, we got some of the most beautiful homes in Detroit. We have some of the most beautiful people, the most artistic people. You got music, you got just so many talented people that live in Detroit that make this city such a powerful and wonderful city. And one thing about Detroit, despite what it goes through, we are always able to like be resilient, and overcome any challenges that it throws at itself. I know you probably heard the saying Detroit versus everybody that came from Tommy Walker, and you see other cities trying to kind of bite that, but that started here, and we say Detroit versus everybody because you'll hear in media or see in media all of these negative things, but they never highlight the positive. And that was one of the things that I wanted to change and moving back to, because personally, I didn't see a lot of positive things. I would hear a lot of negative, and it's like, nah, this isn't the true story. Like, there's so many positive things that's happening in the city, and what can we do to change that?
I'm glad you asked the question, Rooster, because like that was like definitely on the forefront of my mind too. And I think it's the media that I would say most people see is Detroit's bad, which stinks. But it's good to hear like the resiliency and like that's not that bad, or that you're growing back from the decline essentially of 15 plus years ago. Yeah, and I mean, like, like Rich said, the 8 Mile, which is probably his like favorite musical soundtrack after anything Counting Crows. But
No,
like, yeah,
just a fun fact. It's funny. You hear 8 Mile because Eminem from that area, but so 8 Mile is like, once you cross 8 Mile, you're out of Detroit. So 8 Mile is like a borderline thing. So when you in the city, it's 8 Mile. That's like the borderline. Then when you go into the city, it's backwards, right? So it's 7 Mile, it's 6 Mile, which is McNichols, it's 5 Mile, which is Finkel. That's when you in the city. But once you on across 8 Mile, then you cross the border. So you into like Oak Park. You're into it, depending on where you are in the city, because you have Woodward, which is M1, which divides kind of east and west. East and west is like, anytime you ask somebody where you from in Detroit, they're gonna either say they from the east side or west side. It's not like a north and south thing. It's just always east and west, because Woodward kind of divides as between east and west, and Woodward runs north and south.
Each one of the miles represent a section of the city, and then eventually, okay. And then an 8 Mile is the border between what? Is it Detroit and something?
Once you cross over to 8 Mile, you got like the suburbs of Detroit.
there is a Taco Bell on 8 Mile Road at this area that I'm looking at, Rooster.
You can't be talking to Lance about Taco Bell. He is a very particular eater.
I'm looking at a map of because Rooster and I were stationed with a guy who's from, I guess, northern, like Macomb County, I think it is.
Okay.
But on his softball jersey, he put 24 Mile. That was like his name.
Oh, he way out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's way out. Yeah, but that's how it goes. It goes way up to, I think, like 28. I don't know.
Well, I appreciate you kind of shaping that up for us and giving us perspective. And when people say 8 Mile, I'm sure the guy who's from Detroit's like, really? Is that all you? Is that all you got? Like 8 Mile?
Yeah, we Detroiters hear that so much from people that's not from Detroit. It'd be like, yeah, they don't even know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
No,
No,
it's
no
funny. It's
doubt.
funny. I mean, because 8 Mile, the movie, was such a popular thing, so a lot of people associate that with Detroit, and I mean that's cool.
Yeah,
It is a part of Detroit. It's not like you come to Detroit and it's like, yeah, like 8 Mile is a thing in Detroit. 8 Mile,
yeah.
each mile runs east to west in Detroit.
I just spent like 5 minutes of the podcast talking about 8 Mile, which was not my intention. But
Okay.
anyway, let me take you back to something else that you said that I wanted to highlight. When you were talking about your upbringing and when you left, you said that your counselor thought that it would be good for you to attend what you call HBCU, which, for those that aren't familiar, historically Black college and university. Why do you believe, or what was the story behind why your counselor thought that that would be something you should do, or would be good for you to go to that specific type of college or university?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So Thomas Wilson, I still keep in touch with him to this day. Um, so I got accepted to multiple schools. I got accepted to Michigan Tech, which was kind of what I was leaning towards going. Michigan State, Saginaw Valley, and a few other schools. But I did apply to some HBCUs, which is Morehouse, North Carolina A&T. I didn't hear anything back from North Carolina A&T, and then I got denied at Morehouse, um, and then I got accepted to Tennessee State. So Mr. Wilson, I was kind of leaning on going towards Michigan Tech, and I was going to school for electrical engineering, and they had a phenomenal engineering school, but it was like 10 hours up north in Michigan. So he kind of told me to think about an HBCU, because at an HBCU, you'll see a different Black experience, right? So um, I've never went to school with any other race. All in Detroit is an 85% Black city. So all my teachers were Black. Mostly all my life, I've been educated around Black people. Um, and then what I mean about a different Black experience, like you get the cultural aspect of your Blackness. So I all my life I was around poor Black people. So then when you go to an HBCU, it gives you a different pers- like a different perspective of Black people. You got poor, you got middle class, you got rich as Black people. And it's like when you're there, it makes you look at yourself, and then you learn different things about yourself in a whole new light. Because at a HBCU, at Tennessee State specifically, there was anywhere between 9 and 10,000 students there. Um, let's say 90% of those students are Black. Um, so it was an electric experience for me. I mean, I had the time of my life. I always give comparisons to my friends that went to PWI, predominantly white institution, opposed to an HBCU, and I always ask this question, like, what type of experiences are you looking for? Especially when I was in the school system, I always ask kids, because a lot of people don't get an HBCU experience, but then once they graduate, they be like, "That's my main regret, man. I wish I went to a HBCU." And the main thing is, I always ask them, how many white friends do you truly have? You went to school with 30,000 people, but how many friends do you really have? Like, what is your network like? And their answer is always, I don't really have any. And I just that's mind blowing to me, because how can you go to school with so many people and then you don't have people that you can really call friends? So they might have a small portion. And then opposed to an HBCU, I go to a school with 10,000 people. I can't even count how many friends that I have. You know what I mean? Like my phone book is like, I got like over 2,000 contacts in my phone. So it's like anywhere I go throughout this country, there's somebody that I can call on, that I can sleep on the couch, or, whatever. And I think that is golden, you know. And there's some phenomenal people that I've been able to connect, network with, that's doing incredible things. And that network can put you in positions that may not necessarily have if I didn't have that network. So to me, that has been the most golden thing that I've experienced in college. I mean, the education was great. You know, I got a degree in business and supply chain management. But the network is like, you can't put a price on it.
Yeah, the education is first, but right after that is the lifelong connections you'll meet, especially if you play sports, even club sports, intramural sports, or in a fraternity or sorority, something like those connections. And while like Rooster and I didn't have that experience, 20 now, Rooster 20 plus years in the Marine Corps, and I think we're the same way. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people in our phone book that we could call around the country, and then that is the same thing. That's like a personality thing that like you can go into the university or the military and not connect. That's like them people choosing not to, and I hate when I hear that. Like, just make friends, open up, and again, lifelong connections. I mean, Rooster and I are a good example. I mean, 15 years now, that the Marine Corps started.
Wow. 14 years ago on this day, I pledged my fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I woke up to text messages from all my line brothers like, hey, it's been 14 years. It's crazy. And it's 19 of us. And all of them live all around the world and are doing like incredible things. I mean, because once you come out of college, I mean, some people go off to get their master's degree. Some people go off to get their doctorate degrees, all of these things. But I didn't know no black doctors growing up. That just never existed in my life. I didn't see it. But to be able to like have people that I got, like we've been together since we was 18, 19 years old. And to be able to have people like that, people see the like doctor this, and I don't see them as that. I see you like my brother. You know what I mean? Even though I respect that you're a doctor, but it's like it's deeper than that. And to be able to have people like that in my network, it opens up the doors not only for because now you're tapping into their network. So it's like anything that they have, they can put people in front of you or make this call this way. And that's why I said those connections are like gold.
Yeah, all of this ties into this idea of together we shall accomplish so much more than we can accomplish as individuals. Joe mentioned our journey in the Marine Corps. Like you went to HBCU, we went to USMC, and I don't say that to be funny. I say that to say like they are networks, and if you raise the flag, not the American flag, but just the Marine Corps flag, like you will get help if you need it. Your brothers in your fraternity, gosh, 14 years later, and there they were showing up, celebrating the journey that you all had. What we've built with Ainsley's Angels is similar across the country, hundreds of communities where if I need a place to bed down, a safe place, I know I can find it. And I want to use that to bring it into what you have built with We Run 313. So we've talked about kind of your upbringing. You went off to college, you came back, you start to have an impact. How are you having that impact now through We Run 313? And what is We Run 313?
Yeah, so We Run 313, it's a social running club where we connect like-minded individuals through running to build a healthy and happy community. It was started by myself and Joe Robinson, my co-founder. And in starting it, I always had this like idea of like building community. It's so much deeper than running. There's so many people in different walks of life, people that don't necessarily have access to one another. And I felt like running was something that could bring the community together in ways that I didn't typically see. And, when you're focusing on your mental and physical well being, and you find people that want to do the same, I think you get like-minded people in a space that like if you're surrounding yourself around people that care about themselves, you get a different dynamic of people. So it's like being in spaces where like I had the fraternity or being in spaces where like at Tennessee State, we always call it like a family. So I've been in these different environments where culture was created around togetherness, right? So I wanted to create that culture around the Run Club in Detroit, in a city where you don't typically see that happening. That's what we've been able to do. You know, we've been able to create a culture where it's very motivational. It's very empowering. It's very you have a lot of accountability, and people see a lot of themselves in other people. You know, we do a lot of things outside of running that you're able to build strong, authentic relationships with people. You know, I always say there's different social barriers that exist in Detroit. Whether you're from the east side or west side, um, people wouldn't come together. You know, it's like this. I don't know where it started, but it's just like, oh, you from the east side, you know, or if you from the west side, you know, I didn't really see people coming together like that. And then you know, you have socioeconomic barriers. If you got a GED and you have a bachelor's degree, people just wouldn't connect because they just felt like they're on different levels from one another, you know. Or you wouldn't be able to connect with certain people unless you're in certain spaces, right? And a lot of that barrier happens from educational background, or where you are financially, you know, whether you middle class or rich, you poor people won't be in that space. With running, it's like, to hell with that. You don't know who is what. You don't know. It don't matter if you uh considered to be in shape or out of shape. It don't matter if you white or black. It don't matter if you rich or poor. It don't matter if you educated or uneducated. Nobody cares and nobody knows. We all here to sweat and run. And then from there, people are building relationships with one another from their character, not about what you what accolades you have accomplished in your life journey, you know.
Dives right in, man. Ainsley's Angels doesn't care whether you can walk, run, or roll. I mean, so it's a lot of physical piece. Now we've been able to see that just by starting with the physical piece, it transcends into everything that you're talking about. And at the end of the day, running or running events are just a means to an end. And the end is togetherness. It's unity. It's inclusion. It's diversity. It's all the words of the day. But frankly, it's how can we be better humans together? How can we get along together? The area code for Detroit is 313, correct?
Correct.
So we run 313 doesn't say we run east side of the 313 area code.
And it's we. It's not I. You know what I mean? It's we as us together as a community. And it's not even just we run 313 to physically run. It's like we run this city together. You know, and it's crazy. Later as we went on, it's like I'm from the west side, my co-founder's from the east side. So there's that WE, and it's like, but it's together, you know. We can't do this. You're right, right.
Whoa, that blew my mind. Like that, you didn't figure that out till
I didn't
later,
figure that out until later. But it's like
Oh, man.
we can't do this alone. You know, we are better together. We as a community, we as a people, not just as black people, it can be white people, just whatever. We as the human race are together as people, are better together as people. And what do we need to do to strip down or heal from things of the past to move forward? You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's how I look at it.
yeah. I love that, man. Thank you. In fact, y'all also celebrate because I know we got an invitation to come celebrate with you at your gala back in December, and I couldn't go. But our ambassador PJ, who was an episode on this podcast a few podcasts back, he went, and PJ rolled up at the We Run 313 banquet side of the table with the other ambassadors. Y'all had a party.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we know how to party, man. I mean, and you work hard, you party hard. I think it's a good balance. And our end of season gala is a time where, you know, we kick off our season in May. We run in 3 days a week. Sometimes people run in more than that, but we set up our runs 3 days a week. So 2 Mile Tuesday, 5K, 10K Thursday, and Sunday long runs. So you putting in all these miles, plus you got races and stuff like that. So from May all the way into December, we putting in a lot of miles, and we ran a lot of races. So the gala is a time to celebrate our collective accomplishment, to leave the running shoes at home, put on your nice tuxedo, your nice dresses, and everybody come together for this amazing event. And we kick it. We have a good time. I mean, we go through a time where Joe and I, we speak, and we speak to what we all have accomplished through that year, the connections we've been able to make, the relationships we've been able to build. And yeah, it's a people had a time in their life, man. I'll be having a time in my life for sure.
Yeah,
Because
no.
you don't always see people outside of their running clothes. So you show up and everybody looking just top tier. It feel like prom 3.0. And it's a hell of a time.
I've said it before too, and you hit on both of you. Like the running is what Reese you're saying, like the vehicle to the community, right? And for us, like we have 12 destination races within our race series. We do the Louisiana Marathon, Marine Corps Marathon, big events, and it's really not about running or riding. It's about the getting together, the community, pre-race, post-race. I mean, you get people like here in North Carolina. For me, we got a 5K on Saturday, and people are already talking about like hanging out before breakfast, stuff like that. It's like forget the race. Like we'll get through the race. We're gonna have fun. That's guaranteed. But what are we gonna talk about after? What are we gonna talk about before? Because these people you don't see like for us, we don't see them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But it's just still that vehicle that's driving everyone together to talk and grow and more and whatever is running.
Yeah, and like Joe said, these opportunities to go to destination events, like, and as much as you, Lance, are excited about inviting us to your gala because you really want us to celebrate and have a great time and connect with everybody, I get excited to say, like, come join us at the Louisiana Marathon, Lance. Like, it's not about the marathon or the half. It's about all the partying and camaraderie and togetherness that's intermixed throughout the weekend. We have another one that we do that with in October at the Marine Corps Marathon. And usually I like to tell Joe that he should probably talk about the Marine Corps Marathon every now and again.
And yet now seems like a great time. So for those of you listening or watching, if you want to run or ride in the People's Marathon, October 28th this year in Washington, D.C., just email Joe at ainsleysangels.org. We would love to have you. And again, it's a weekend event. Folks get to go and see the monuments in our nation's capital, 200-person dinner, a lot of just mingling and getting to know riders and runners from around the country. So again, if you want to participate in the Marine Corps Marathon weekend festivities with us, email Joe at ainsleysangels.org, and hopefully Lance emails Joe at ainsleysangels.org after this.
I definitely want to participate in the Marine Corps Marathon. I just haven't had the time to get around to it, but one of these days I will. But I've heard great things about it. A lot of my friends have run it.
You run a lot, Lance.
I do.
Already you've run some halves, you got some fulls. What's your calendar looking like for fulls in 2023?
Yeah, so I got 3 fulls on the schedule this year. The first one will be Boston, which is April 17th. And then I'll be going to Berlin to run a Berlin Marathon. It's that September 23rd. And then I'm going to run a Detroit Free Press Marathon because that's our hometown race. We run 2 countries in one race. Oh, that's another thing I didn't tell y'all about Detroit. So Detroit, downtown Detroit, we have the Detroit River that separates Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, Canada, right? So it's literally a bridge or a tunnel that that can get you from Detroit over to Canada. So in the Detroit Free Press Marathon, you run across the bridge and then you run around in Canada and then you come back over through through the tunnel and run the rest of Detroit. And so it's 26.2 miles between 2 countries. And I never got the opportunity to run that. So I'll be running that as well.
That's great. You got to get with PJ. I know that you run these races individually, but maybe for your 3rd marathon of the year, you can take one of our riders from Ainsley's Angels of Michigan with you because Ainsley's Angels does the Detroit Free Press Marathon. So I just want you to have that invitation.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it'll provide a different experience, or if not me, because I do have a time goal. If not this year, definitely in the future, but or we can expose it to different people in our run club that may want to, be a part of something like that. Because, I mean, we have over 2,300 runners in our run club, and we're the largest and fastest growing run club in the state. So, I mean, we got the people. Yeah.
Yeah. PJ mentioned to me after the gala that he has intentions in 2023 to do races that 313 is doing. And so I just haven't looked at the calendar and connected the dots, but having the two of you connect would be, probably a good idea to see where those stars align. And then who knows, Lance, maybe for your fourth marathon of the year, you can go have a nice, easy stroll in Washington, D.C., because it's the end of October. It would align well. It'd be a recovery marathon.
I think
anyway.
I'm 3 and out. I think I'm 3 and out for the year.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt, man.
A lot of miles you got to put in to be prepared for that marathon.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We've talked about the Louisiana marathons in January, but there's also a half option. So come on down to Baton Rouge for Martin Luther King weekend. We got some good Louisiana cuisine and good times, and then we'll see what 2024 holds. But definitely want to share some race courses with you as we go forward.
I'm with it.
Meaning, like he'll catch you at the finish line, share the course.
Well, the thing about having the speed is that you don't always have to use it. You can take it easy too, and just enjoy the race. And that's what I plan to do. I got some goals that I'm trying to reach time wise, but it's just so hard on the body, man. So I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be racing that hard for a very long time. I mean, I really do enjoy races, and what I mean by that, like, I want to stop and take pictures and connect with the people on the course and not just blaze through it so fast. I mean, a lot of times, I run so fast and I be so focused, I kind of forget what even happened because I'm just laser focused that I just be so focused. I don't even know what just happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I definitely know what you mean. In fact, I'm gonna share my screen and hopefully not disrupt this whole thing right now. But if you look at this picture, I was so focused and nope.
You are very focused right there.
Not only was I focused, but I was one stride ahead of Lance. You remember that day in Boston, man? That was a good time. We were cold, weren't we, though?
It was so cold. We trying to hop in the van and stay warm and then hop right back out there and do some more runs. Turned out great.
Yeah, it was great. What I showed my screen for those that couldn't see, I'll probably have that picture added whenever we share this on our Together with Shell podcast Instagram page. But that was a morning of our photo shoot from our most recent journey with ASICS, the new class. So both Lance and I, as well as 3 other people, were the 2022 ASICS ambassador class for the Live Uplifted Challenge. And then going into 2023, they invited each of us to bring a person or persons with us to nominate them to be the Sound Mind, Sound Body ambassadors for 2023. And so I had a chance to have Sean and Seamus join us there. But Lance, who did you bring with you?
Yeah, I brought Asia Rawls. She has been a part of our run club since inception. But when I met Asia, I didn't know all of these great things about her. Easy pick on Asia. I mean, she brings a lot of energy. She's very positive and just uplifting in the community. And she was just the perfect person.
Yeah, her energy is spot on. The second I met her, I was like, oh, yep, we get along. We're going to get along. And then we did in the photo shoot, there's a picture where we're both holding a globe up. And she's Asia. She's holding the Asian continent. And I'm over here holding on to the other side of it. We just had a good time. She's fun.
Wow.
I see how she's training. Oh, you didn't see that?
I didn't see that. Yeah.
Oh.
And she just ran the LA half marathon too. And she did really well.
I haven't convinced ASICS to let us have that picture. Nobody took one except the professional, and they haven't released the picture of us holding the globe up. But I bet you a little bit of pressure. Maybe we can make that happen. Lance, thank you so much for taking some time to join us for this episode. I really appreciated some of the perspectives that you shared with us. I certainly had no idea exactly the details behind 8 Mile and this different Black perspective of life experiences. I've never heard someone shape it up like that in regards to HBCU. So thank you for that as well.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for creating this and creating space for me to just tell more about my story, and put it out there.
And thanks for just being my friend, man. We've been in place and met one another once in person, but I feel like I've known you so much longer.
Same, man. I appreciate you for having me on the podcast, and we got to do it again, man.
Yeah, I think there'll be some opportunities, definitely. As we roll the episode out, Joe, is there any kind of saved rounds or thoughts you have before we let Lance have the last word about what he wants to leave people with?
No, yeah, thanks for joining us. It's awesome, especially for me not knowing you before this, but getting to meet and feeling like you can learn a lot about a person in an hour.
Yeah.
And I feel like I learned more than I would typically learn about a person in an hour, especially in a virtual setting. So yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Keep doing all the good stuff that you and your Joe are up there doing. And hopefully we can get two Joes, a Rooster and a Lance in the same room in the next 12 months.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I'm on it, man. It's just my life's purpose, man. And when I feel it in my spirit, I gotta act on it. So
Tell them where they can learn more about We Run 313.
yeah, you can check us out on all social media platforms at We Run 313. You can check out the website, werun313.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook group. If you want to join it, it's called 2 Mile Tuesday, where you can get a lot of inspiration. If you want some accountability, join the group, and we'll let you in.
You're talking and I'm going to Facebook. Like, where is it? I want to get in.
I'm all about 2 Mile Tuesday, man.
What do you want to leave the listeners with? Whoever they are, wherever they are, what is something that you want to offer to them to take with them for the rest of their day?
I live by this quote, man. It came to me when I was at Tennessee State. One of my friends shared it with me, and it's been my moral compass for quite some time. It's when we forget ourselves that we do things which will be remembered. So to put that in context, at least for me, it's like I had to put my own personal agenda aside and think about the fullness of everything, right? Because life is not about you per se. It's about how can you do something to leave an impact on someone else. And it can be one person. But when you take yourself out the equation and you think about everyone else, that's when you'll do something that will be remembered, that'll last forever.
You know what? I got enough.
He's in charge.
We're done. This was good.
Yeah, we're done here. The structure of this building has reached its capacity.
Find your people, and if they make you feel sexy, even better.
Whether you watched or listened this episode, I now invite you to experience the Live Uplifted journey told by Lance as part of our experience as ASICS ambassadors.
Sometimes during my runs, I would come over here and I would just look at the building. It gets emotional because, to see a school that you spent so much of your childhood just boarded up like this. That's not only my reality, that's the reality for many Detroiters. And what We Run 313, it's my hope to see something that lasts.
I feel like what we're doing in Detroit is very spiritual. Bringing people together of all ages, all ethnicities. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. We're breaking down social barriers that exist within the city and bringing people together through running. That's our slogan: connect, run, and build.
This is my old home, or what used to be my old home.
What I saw growing up was a lot of negativity, drug abuse, a lot of violence, even some of my friends being killed. And those things kind of pushed me to get out of Detroit. Running really became my therapy. It started to click for me that this had became a space to get away from everything that I was dealing with in life. There's moments when you're running where you have an outer body experience where it's like nothing in the world matters but putting one foot in front of the next. That's where that spark came. And it was like, man, I can come home and make a difference. So I started these group runs. people were asking like, when's the next run? And then we decided to create a run club, which we run 313 on May 4th, 2019. And we didn't even know that it would turn into what it turned into. What we've created is more than a run club, it's a movement. I've seen the people in the run club make significant changes. I've seen loss happen within the run club, and I've also seen the run club come together and help each other through those difficult moments. What we're doing is restoring the village that once existed here. It's a powerful thing, and I'm just grateful to be in that space to do it.